before we start. So welcome if you're joining the session. This is the panel talking about contributing to local economies, and I'll just wait for some more people to join. I can see people coming through the door. And then we'll kick off in a minute or so once we've got some people. I hope you've all been having a good symposium so far with the morning sessions. I'll just give it another few seconds for some more people to join, and then we'll start. Okay, well, I may as well start doing the introduction. So welcome everyone to the Contributing to Local Economies session. My name is Sarah Thirtle. I'm the Director of Strategic Development at Creative United, and we were very proud to be a delivery partner on the Heritage Compass programme. Some of you may have received one-to-one business support or workshops from our team of business advisors and mentors and trainers. And I'm very excited to be chairing this panel today. You may have seen that we were to have 3 sets of panelists today. Unfortunately, Gary from Black History Walks is unable to join us this morning, but we've still got 2 fantastic sets of panelists. So I will ask them to just do quick intros. So if we start with you, Sally.
Morning from sunny County Durham. It's great to be here. I'm Sally Dixon. I've been working in arts and culture in the North East for the past 20 years now. Most recently, I was leading on all things partnerships, communications and fundraising at Beaumont Open Air Museum. Previous to that, I've worked in a number of local authorities. I was the arts manager at Durham County Council before Johnny Beaumont. So I've done many things in many guises, but I'm all about place really. So what gets me out of bed in the morning is how can I move the North East on through arts, culture, creativity. That's very much my thing. I've recently gone freelance and I'm building a freelance portfolio. I'll be supporting Durham Fringe Festival. It's a relatively young festival, but it has so much potential, which is really exciting. And I've also just taken up the contract to support the Durham Culture Education Partnership. And it's great to be here today with you all. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. And Mandy and Hannah, do you want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, good morning. I'm Mandy from the Transpennine Trail National Office, which sounds very good, but there's only 3 of us, as you'll find out very shortly. We were on the Transpennine Trail, which is a walking, cycling, horse riding route from Southport over to Hornsey, so from coast to coast, covering 26 different local authorities. So there's never a dull moment with our team. And over to you, Hannah, if you want to give a quick intro.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah Beaumont. So I'm the Transpennine Trail Senior Development Officer. So I work alongside Mandy. We've got a head office, which I'm based in Barnsley, but we'll tell you all about what we've been doing in the past in our presentation shortly.
Great. Thank you, guys. So yeah, so this panel, we're talking about contributing to local economies. So that means how can the work of heritage organisations and cultural organisations contribute through potentially partnerships, through apprenticeships, employment schemes, volunteering, tourism. There's so many different aspects that heritage can play in contributing to local economies. So I just had a pop up on my screen. No, it's gone now. Good. So there's going to be 2 presentations by the speakers, and they're going to be talking about this subject in their own contexts. And then there should be time at the end to have a Q&A. So if any of you have got questions for the panelists, please do write them into the Q&A box, or if you want to use the chat box, that's also okay. I'll be monitoring those too, and I'll be making sure I pull through your questions to talk about at the end, but we'll be having a more kind of general chat and maybe digging into the detail of some of what we cover in the panel. Okay, without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Sally, who's got a few slides. Off you go.
Right. Right, can everybody see that? Yes, people nodding, great stuff. Right, so today's presentation from me is about business partnerships. That's my number one focus. I've got 2 case studies to share. The first of which is our approach to developing business partnerships at Beaumont Museum. And the second one is the business engagement work around County Durham's bid to become UK City of Culture 2025. We weren't successful, I'm sure you all know that, but I think there's something interesting to share in the business engagement piece around that. And then I've been reflecting on what's transferable from those 2 very sort of specific case studies that hopefully folk can take away and think about how you might apply within your own context and organisations, no matter kind of what scale or nature of operation you are. Right, so a bit of background about Beamish Museum to start with. I spent 10 years there, and it's a fabulous, fabulous museum. So for those of you who haven't visited, it's about everyday working life in the North East through time. It's immersive and experiential, and the stories are told through costume, staff and volunteers. So you literally travel back in time. You ride around the site in trams and period buses. So it is something quite distinctive and unique. No other museum tells the story of working life in the North East in that way. It was set up in 1970 by Frank Atkinson, who'd been inspired by the Scandinavian tradition of open air museums. And it's grown significantly over the past decade or so. Back in 2008-09, visitor numbers were at 300,000, and over the past decade they've grown to 800,000, which is really, really quite something. And business partnerships have been a key part of sort of powering up that growth. Many things beside, we've done some work sort of 2010 to 13 around thinking about core purpose and guiding principles. So that was a bit of a refocus. I think all the ingredients of success were there, but I think a really clear laser focus on what you're all about. So visitors first, involving communities and partners in everything that the museum does, and not being afraid to be entrepreneurial, to support the museum to grow and attract more people. So at the kind of core of that was the vision to become self-reliant, moving out of the need to rely on local authority funding and becoming reliant as a charity with a trading arm. So the turnover had grown from 4.5 million back in 2008 to 14 last year, which is a significant growth really for a museum. When I told that story to businesses, the jaws would drop. Actually, they could see it's just a story that businesses really wanted to get behind. So I think for folk in the room, just think about what's your story, what's distinctive, and how do you kind of tell a story of the impact that you have. So yes, a charity with a trading arm, a really big complex operation. So almost 1,000 people make the museum work. There's 440 staff and over 400 active volunteers, which is incredible. And when you visit the site, you shouldn't be able to tell who's a member of staff and who's a volunteer because everyone's in period costume. And the story starts in the Georgian times, and the museum has just built a 1950s area. So you can see the welfare hall there in that photograph. And that's just made sense to move forward into living memory, because that was the founding vision of the museum. There'd always be a period area on site in living memory. So yeah, since the very kind of get-go, I mean, Frank Atkinson was brilliant at getting business people involved and supporting the museum. So that's been core to the success, and the museum wouldn't be where it is today without the support of businesses. Right, so yes, when I joined in 2013, I could sort of see that there was untapped potential to kind of put back in that kind of network of partnerships around the museum. At that time, we were entering into a really kind of ambitious or transformational, overused word, but I think it has been transformational capital development project for the museum, supported by National Heritage Lottery. It was a 21 million project with a vision to move forward into living memory, but also tell a broader story of everyday working life in the Georgian area, which includes self-catering accommodation units. So there's lots of eye-catching things in there to kind of help get businesses on board. So it's my job to put together the fundraising strategy to match funds, the Heritage Lottery. Not easy, but I guess with a big museum like that, it has profile in the North East, so it made my job a little bit easier, I think. So business support was part of the fundraising mix. So what I did was I worked with one of the founding business partners, Northumbrian Water. They know and love the museum well. So we thought about we designed the Business Friends scheme together and in partnership, and we came up with a scheme that was driven by mutual benefits. So thinking about what the museum can offer that can help benefits, and that was a mix of, I guess, thinking about a distinctive offer in terms of staff benefits, profile raising, and just getting behind an institution that does so much benefit for its place. So we came up with 3 levels of membership: an entry level priced to sell at 825, corporate partner membership, and business champion membership, just for those businesses that wants to really get behind us and go above and beyond to help the museum. And the benefits package is sort of things you'd expect, really. Because it was a charging museum, is a charging museum. The corporate passes, which are transferable, were really attractive to businesses and work well as a staff benefit somewhere for members of staff and their families to come and spend time and enjoy. So that helped us to sell. And social media, acknowledgement on site, acknowledgement in our magazine, and exclusive events throughout the year, and discount on corporate hire. So in terms of getting the word out there and getting businesses on board, I think for smaller organisations, it is a challenge because it is about visibility. Businesses like to buy into people they know and trust, so you'd need to find some way of, I guess, developing visibility within business networks. Perhaps your trustees can help with that, but it's all about being a known and trusted partner, I think. So we set up a networking group, and we'd gone through personal networks, introductions. There was no cold calling involved at all, because no one likes that, do we? That just doesn't work. So that's what we found there anyway. So it's thinking about who you can kind of bring into the fold, who kind of gets what you're all about to help you do this. So it's more of an organic approach. It wasn't kind of targeting particular sectors. But I think what you'll find is that accountants and lawyers are doing quite well and will have the resource within their marketing budgets to kind of invest in supporting culture and heritage. So the scheme grew from 6 partners in 2014 to over 70 today, which everyone there is really proud of. And we've done some bespoke partnerships too. So that's Beamish Business Friends. Am I doing okay for time, Sarah?
Yeah, I think we're okay. Yeah, we've got
brilliant.
a few more minutes on.
Lovely. So I'll perhaps go a bit quick with this. So the second example is Durham's bid to be UK City of Culture in 25. We weren't successful, but I think it was a galvanising process, which really kind of helped to raise the profile of the importance of culture and heritage, and the impact the sector can have. I think particularly within the business community. So partnership approach involving the cultural partnership, the university and the council. I'd done this on top of my substantive role at the museum, and for various reasons we had about a year's lead in, so it felt a little bit like The Apprentice. So I had to get as many businesses signed up as possible, and I also had to get pledges of cash support. But it was just a really, really good thing for the place, so I couldn't imagine not doing it. We come up with a compelling vision for change in the county, inspired by a really sort of good quality evidence base the university prepared for us. There were 3 step change areas: health and well-being, community pride, and productivity, both in the visitor economy area and creative industries. And businesses really got that, but they also got that this would be a brilliant thing for the county and the region. So a little bit of detail. Again, the approach was co-produced, working with the Chamber of Commerce and Durham Business Club, who really got their sleeves rolled up, hands-on support with staff resource, convening events, comms. And again, you need kind of, for a project of this nature, you need high-profile business leaders to be engaged and visibly supporting it, and that brings others on board. So we've done a back the bid, And I'd also approach those who could afford to do so to offer pledges of cash support should it be successful. We'd got 1,000 businesses signed up at the time the bid was submitted and 600k pledged in cash support. So I was really proud of that. And we've gone on to kind of just signpost those businesses to kind of other cultural organisations so that work is not wasted. And County Durham's just secured an Arts Council Place partnerships, about 1.25 million, I think. So that's, I guess, sort of that wouldn't have happened, I think, without this process. So it's bringing more resource in. Right, and just a few, well, not more than a few actually, some transferable learning points. I think mutual benefits have got to be the starting point. It's sort of almost flipping your thinking around. What can your organisation do to help and support your business community? That's got to be the starting point. Goes without saying, you need support from the top, from your leadership team and from your board. But there's also resource there. Who makes the ask? Can your board of trustees potentially, what connections have they got? Can they sort of give you some proactive hands-on support with networking? So there's a resource there. Make sure you've tapped that up. Working partnership, I think, is everything. And there's a real value in co-producing your scheme with businesses. Just identify who's out there, who's passionate about your story, and see if they're up for kind of, I guess, volunteering and helping you to develop that. I think people like to say yes if they're asked rather than no. And comms, well, fundraising and comms go hand in hand. How do you tell the story of your impact, the difference you make? Think about that. Getting out and networking is important. And visibility, we found, makes a difference. Record keeping, taking photos okay here, but record keeping is key. An Excel spreadsheet will do if you can't afford CRM, but it's really important to kind of know who you're cultivating, who you're supporting, and always say a big thank you. Personal relationships are key, and being flexible. And when you're going into kind of a meeting, having a bit of a menu of options for support involved, but have an idea of the numbers that you need. Businesses like to be, they like precise asks. They like to know what they're being asked for. So have that at your fingertips and don't feel embarrassed to ask, because it's all kind of moving places on. I think that's it from me, if that's okay. Sarah, thank you.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you, Sally.
Thank you.
That was really interesting. And what I took from that is there's a sort of virtuous circle. If you can create a compelling story about how your organization contributes to the local economy, you're more likely to get businesses involved and increase that fundraising, which creates a compelling story. And then, so it's great to see it played out across those two different contexts there. So thank you. All right, so I'm going to hand over now to Mandy and Hannah. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Jack, are you okay to fetch up the presentation? Fabulous. Thanks ever so much. First of all, thank you for inviting myself and Hannah to speak to you today about the Transpennine Trail in terms of tourism and volunteering. The Transpennine Trail, or TPT for short, as we like to call it, is a sustainable transport and recreational route that travels 215 miles coast to coast. So you've got your Southport to Hornsey section, as the map on the screen shows you there. And then we've also got the spurs to Cape Burton, Leeds, Chesterfield and York, which gives you over 370 miles in total. It's available for walkers, cyclists, horse riders, with about 70% for equestrians at the moment. We work with 26 different local authorities right across the trail, which keeps us busy every single day of the week. And unlike most of you on this Heritage Compass programme at the moment, we're a free facility, so we haven't got any charges. So we need to find out how we can continue to get both the visitor numbers and also attract funding as well. It's open 24 days a week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Next slide, please, Jack. Thank you. A little bit about the team. Sounds very glamorous when you say you've got a national office, but there are only 3 of us in the team. Myself and Hannah are here today to talk about the programme. I'm the lead officer for the Transpennine Trail. Hannah is a senior development officer, and she'll be covering the volunteer aspect of today's presentation. And Robert is what we call the TPT technician. And unfortunately, Robert can't be with us today. Next slide, please, Jack. So tourism, and on to the next one, please. You can press that. Thanks, Jack. It sounds like a cliche, but you need to get your strategy right, as we have learnt to our cost. And this programme has been a great way for us to develop things as well. If you put the time in to get your strategy right, it does make your life easier as you're trying to work out all your deliverables. Our Bible is our development strategy, which all the work for all the team sits under there. And we've got 6 themes within the development strategy. We've developed this a little bit further with Heritage Compass to make it more meaningful for our partners, both internally and externally. The first item there that you can see on the green aspect there, that's what we call our business plan on the page. So we've got that there. It doesn't talk you the whole way through the development strategy, but it's more meaningful for our partners and our other key stakeholders as well. And then the other 3 slides there show what we used to have as our activity report. We have to supply an activity report to our executive every quarter and also to our other local authority partners. And basically that was just a list of what we'd done throughout the last quarter. So we've worked with Heritage Compass to develop infographics now that we can use for each of those different aspects. And that's more meaningful for our stakeholders as well. And also we can actually feed into that direct. It's a live document and it's used throughout the year. It's not just written and kept on a shelf. We do make an active effort to update this as much as we can. So these are new style simple reports and they're being started through the Heritage Compass. So huge thanks to our business mentor and our critical friend who've taken us through that process as well. Next slide, please, Jack. It's important for us, as it is for everybody on this programme as well, to know your audience and know how to keep in touch with them. So we undertake a visitor survey every year. We used to do it every 2 years, but now we undertake this annually. It surveys our users, different audience engagement, and then we get an insight into how people actually feel about the trail, what we're doing right, and also what we're doing wrong. And it's important to get that information as well from people. We've just released our 2023 visitor survey and executive reports. Goes into lots and lots of details. If anybody wants a copy of that report, we're more than happy to share it with anybody. The slide there just shows you a couple of the outputs from the report, but I think the last one is the one to focus on as well, particularly in terms of people on today's call. The visitor spend. This is a huge effort to get this right and to make sure that we are encouraging people to spend not on the trail itself, but also to get off the trail into those local towns and cities that they're passing on the route. And the calculation that we do is that every person on there actually spends a minimum of £44 while they're actually on there on the trail. Of course, if you've got a horse rider that's out on the trail, their spend is increased because you've got the horse rider that you're stabling, and also the rider itself will stop in at your B&B or guest house. The other one as well, the purple pound, that's been a real key to get that information. For those of you who don't know, the purple pound is the spending power of disabled households. And we only started to record that a couple of years ago. And we've now got that to the value of £20 for each person that's got a disability that is out there visiting the trail. To get that information, we worked with a fantastic group called Access for All UK, and they were absolutely phenomenal. And there's other organisations that can help you for Wheels and Wellbeing, Disabled Ramblers. If you've got the facilities that can attract people with disabilities, they will continue to come time and time and time again, because they know that the routes available in terms of the TPT, they've got the facilities available, so they're not having to spend that time and effort for going a few miles away and thinking, we can't get into the toilets at this facility, let's come back and look somewhere else. And of course, when you're doing a visitor survey, it's only representative of the time and effort that people take to actually complete the survey. What Heritage Compass has now challenged us with doing is looking at the people who don't complete the survey. How can we encourage them to complete the survey? And also for visitors that don't use the trail. We've got nearly 2 million people that use the trail every year, but obviously where it is, there is a massive untapped audience to get more visitors onto the trail, and that's going to be one of our priorities that we're taking forward into next year thanks to this programme. Next slide please, Jack. It's important for us, as it is with any other organisation, to get your online offer right and to keep it current, keep it up to date. Our website is our main source of information for us. It's our responsibility to make sure that it's up to date. It looks right with the images that we've got there. We are representing all users. We've got full editorial control of the website, and we've just relaunched the website section for events. And we've also added a section now for Meet the Transparent Trail team and Meet the Executive. as we were taught by our critical friend and business mentor, it's all well and good having this fantastic website that looks brilliant, but we are not visible. You know, it could be a robot that was doing all this in the background. So we are now there, our faces are live on the website, kicking and screaming, I have to say. But over this next year, we're going to be doing more updates to the website and revising some of the content and using some of the images that we have as well. And we've also got an interactive mapping section on the website. So if you've not had a look at it, please do so. We've got a podcast channel, and we've also got weekly blogs as well that we now write on, and we add those onto the website. They're done by us at the moment. Once we've started the programme, we're hoping then to get people who are using the trail to encourage them as well to write their own blogs. We've got a Facebook site and X, formerly known as Twitter. Social media is a vital tool for us. We don't have a marketing budget, so if we can get on as many free platforms as we can, it's a great way that we can actually spread the story about the trail, get people to feedback things about us, particularly in cases where we've got a tree down that we need to do an urgent closure with our partners. It's a great way that we can engage with people as well. And it helps us build those relationships with different community groups and encourage other community groups that we might find on social media that are not following us to get in touch and see how we can help them use the trail. We've got an Instagram page, and that is just a platform purely for images. And that's on a new platform for us that we've just started recently. But I have to say that's been a great way for people to put their images on and tag us in. We use them in monthly videos, we use them in quarterly newsletters that we do. And as and when we're updating the website as well, we're also going to be using lots of their images on the website. So it's another great way that we can actually get in touch with people and say, look, what you are doing on the trail and your images, they're worth a fortune to us. Next slide, please, Jack. And it's over to Hannah now for the volunteering.
Thank you. So I'm going to talk you through volunteers now for the next 4 or 5 minutes. So we've got a registered charity arm, the Friends of the Transpennine Trail, and the Heritage Compass programme has helped to raise the awareness, not just for us at the National Office, but also for the Friends of the TPT too. We provide a lot of support for the Friends with some of the tasks that we undertake on their behalf, showing on the screen. The Friends are a great avenue for us to submit funding bids for enhancements on the trail. However, sometimes we did used to fall into a bit of a trap of providing a bit too much support to the Friends, which has been adding to our workload. And this programme has really challenged us. And thanks to our business mentor and critical friend, Joe Boardman and Sabina, they taught us how to actually say no and make sure that we pass tasks back to the Friends. So I think it's just important to say, don't be afraid to say no and to pass things back to people, because until you do that, they don't actually realise that actually we're up against it. So thank you for that bit of advice. We also really struggled with trying to identify what we can offer to people who use the trail to encourage them to either donate or become a member of the Friends or a volunteer. And when we were doing a bit of research, a lot of the offers that people were doing in different heritage sites across the UK who were similar to us was a discounted entry or money off something. And this became our first stumbling block, because the trail is open 24/7 and free for everyone to access. So we held a couple of discussions with Joe and Sabina, and they helped to make us look a bit more open-mindedly and actually realise that what we have to offer, how myself and Mandy present the TPT, is more like a family, so we can think outside the box. So from the advice that they've given us, we're actually going to offer start to do a virtual coffee morning in the next couple of weeks, and just trying to help to re-engage our current friends and volunteers so that they can then be our sources of promotion to spread the word to their friends and family about the trail and the National Office, and see if they want to start to get involved with the TPT. But if you want to get involved with the TPT, just drop me or Mandy a message and we can get in touch with you to tell you a bit more about it. So next slide, please, Jack. So we also work with volunteers. So the National Office, we're just a small team of just 3 members of staff. So we rely heavily on our volunteers to be the eyes and ears whilst out on the trail. So they help to report any issues, but they also help to keep the trail clear of vegetation and litter for everyone who's using it to enjoy. And this is becoming even more important, as well as our local authority partners no longer have the capacity to go out and monitor the route as closely as they would like, due to their ongoing workload and budget pressures. So for our volunteer scheme, we work in partnership with Sustrans, who are a national organisation on the joint volunteer scheme. And this basically means that volunteers who join us to work on the TPT get the best of both worlds. They get the support from the TPT National Office, and then they also get the support from Sustrans, who, as they're a larger organisation, they can get access to all these different training opportunities too. Some of the tasks that the volunteers have started to get involved in after COVID is to start to attending events at local and regional events on our behalf. So the images that you've got on the screen there are showing, we've got on the right hand side, we've got a volunteer coordinator from Sheffield who has organised a volunteer work day to go litter picking with a business known as Amy. You probably all know, and they went and did that for a few hours. And then we've also got another photo on the left hand side, and this is of a volunteer who kindly offered to go and promote the TPT at Liverpool's car free event. And on that photograph, he's managed to get a photo with the leader of Liverpool City Council and even Simon O'Brien, the lead City Region Combined Authority Commissioner. So it's really great for them to be getting out, and without their help in attending events like this, we just wouldn't be able to get that presence. And this is really key to encouraging new people to learn about the trail, but also to go and access it for leisure purposes or even for active travel measures as well. So without these fantastic volunteers, it really wouldn't be possible. Thank you, Jack. Next slide, please. So we rely heavily reliant on funding to be able to secure the longevity of the TPT National Office, and we've been successful in the past 2 years in securing 2 funding bids. So I'll talk about the first one. So reaching communities, we're just now entering our last year of this 3-year programme, and the volunteer element in this programme has enabled us to work with local community groups in South Yorkshire to see how we can help to raise their profile on social media and with all of our members, and look to increase their membership too. So we've given groups opportunities to feature in our quarterly newsletters, to feature on some of our blogs, and also feature on some podcasts as well that we're starting to join. And we follow these organisations on our social media so we can regularly share any events or information that they're sharing as well. And then for the Know Your Neighbourhoods, this was a new one that we were able to tap into this year, and this funding enabled us to provide funding to organisations for staffing and equipment costs to groups within Barnsley and Doncaster. So we initially went forward and we were going to be working with just 4 groups, but as ever, when me and Mandy get involved in something, it ended up extending to working with 16 organisations. So it grew into a bit of a beast, but it was great. It meant a lot of work for us, but it was really phenomenal to see the difference that this programme made. And we hope that going forward, we're going to use this programme as a pilot to help lever in funding to replicate this across the whole of the TPT. And also, if you are looking for putting a funding bid in, the Know Your Neighbourhoods funding application was the easiest one that we have ever done. So highly recommend going for that one. Next slide, please. And that's it, we're at an end now, but I just want to say that you don't always need a really big team to get stuff done. You just need the right team, and remember to make sure to take time out to refocus and try not to be afraid of challenging yourselves and others as well. We've learned so much from this Heritage Compass programme, but the main lessons we've taken from this is just to keep asking why you do certain things, and just because you've always done it doesn't mean that you should keep doing it. So that's it from us. So thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed it.
Oh, that's
Thanks,
brilliant.
Sarah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for those 2 great informative talks. So yeah, if anyone has any questions for the Trans-Pennine Trail, for Mandy or Hannah, or for Sally with her work at Beamish or in Durham, do just drop it into the Q&A box. I'll keep an eye on that. While any questions come in, I've got some questions. So I wondered if either of you guys have got some examples of where there's been a real challenge to bringing in any kind of particular change within your organisation to maybe facilitate those partnerships, or those something that you knew would benefit the economy through the work you're doing, but it meant creating some kind of change. Was there any challenge with that, and how did you deal with that? I don't know if anyone wants to jump in on that question.
Shall I go?
Sure.
A few reflections on that, and I'll think about the Beamish context. I think what you've got there is a completely different setup in terms of scale to the guys at TPT. It's a big organisation, you know, with almost 1,000 people who are very invested in and committed to it, particularly with a big volunteering team as well. So yes, I think with the business partnership side, we were, my team and I were developing corporate hire, and again, sort of huge area of opportunity there. Businesses are looking for really exciting, memorable, distinctive contexts for away days, not usual Radisson or Hilton, good as they are. And that's where heritage can come in. You know, we can kind of really offer a sort of a context where the outcomes of that away day are memorable. We can offer activities we put on murder mysteries and things like that that get fiercely competitive. So I think a challenge that my team and I had was just getting kind of everybody on board with that, because the visitor first thing had been interpreted very literally. It was seen as the visitors of the kind of members of the public who walk through the door, businesses sort of over there. Well, that's not quite the case, really. You know, everyone is a visitor, and everyone's a stakeholder. So again, it was just, I guess, building relationships internally, senior level support and messaging at the all staff monthly catch up, telling the story of the impact that business partnerships make in terms of the financial resilience of the organisation within sort of I guess the magazine and newsletters. So just sort of chipping away at that and getting key people, sort of influential people within that staff team on board and behind. But it takes a while, particularly with, I guess, with TPT, you know, small and nimble. With a big organisation, there is more resource there, but we're all operating on tight margins. So I think it's accepting that things, that change takes time. So that there's an example there. Now I'll pause there. Thank you.
I mean, that's interesting. And I guess what Beamish was able to offer then into the local economy was an imaginative, more interesting choice to local businesses if they needed to have a meeting or an away day or some kind of event. So the value of, you know, heritage organizations is that they're able to do that and differentiate themselves and then build that value back into the local economy to attract partners. That's really interesting. I guess for TransPennine Trail, I'm interested in the volunteers that you work with. Obviously have a huge benefit to your organization. And I think you mentioned a little bit about what the volunteers get out of it, but I wonder how that might translate into your contribution into the local economy. I mean, how do you think the volunteers, what do they take away from it? Which is that more of a social impact? Do you think there's an economic benefit? What benefits do the volunteers take away outside of the organisation, do you think?
I'll start, Hannah, if you want to jump in then as well. I mean, from our point of view as well, we've got local authority partners who should be monitoring the trail every day, but unfortunately, as we all know, their roles have been squashed and squeezed as much as they can. So it gives chance for the volunteers to actually come out and take part in something that's valuable to them, not only in their local community, but also wider afield as well. So we've got the health benefits, physical health, mental health, well-being, and also the cost impact of that to the local authorities. You know, every hour that the volunteer spends out on trail, it's of economic benefit to the local authority as well, not just us as an organisation, and also locally to the local communities as well. And it's a great way that we can actually try and encourage more people to come on board. If they're out on trail, you know, just wearing a high-vis top, somebody might just stop by and say, oh, hello, what are you doing? And then next week they might come along and help join them as well. Hannah, do you want to add anything else on that?
Yeah, I think just asking what the volunteers get out of it. I think it is very much a social thing that the volunteers get out of it. I think that became really prevalent as well during COVID, when we had to put stop to people going out, and there was lots of people who really struggled with that. And that's where we used to drop in and do a lot more emails to people, and that's why we think it'd be really good to touch base again and launch this virtual coffee morning to be able to embrace that, because there's a lot of the volunteers are some of them are quite elderly, so they can suffer with loneliness as well. So we're trying to look at how we can combat that as well. But yeah, very much a social element for coming out, and they're just a bit of a giving back thing as well. It's really nice to give back sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree, and I think that social angle is really key. The reducing a sense of loneliness and isolation through volunteering is something that has been talked about in various contexts, but for people themselves, it's a very real experience. And then the knock-on effect of that in society is potentially reduced cost to the NHS. And someone actually has just put in the chat about social prescribing as part of the NHS, and that's another avenue that cultural and heritage organisations could look at in their business plans, and how they might be able to connect with that as a growing movement.
Yeah, sorry, I've just thought as well, because obviously the trail spans 370 miles. So how we've worked it is that we've broken it down into groups. So each volunteer, if you were in Barnsley, you would get allocated to a Barnsley group. So you're not just a lone ranger walking on the trail. You've got an access to a pot of volunteers as well. So instantly, as you sign up, you become part of a team. So it just solidifies that.
Yeah, and that's really attractive. People can join and make friends, so it benefits them as benefiting you guys with the work that needs doing sort of on the ground. Thanks for that. I don't know if anyone's got any other questions. We've got about 3 minutes. Please do use the chat box. Someone's just put a long message in here. Let's have a look. So they've got a nightmare in their local area. The region has a lot of resources, but they can't put the effort into their area. In a small council, there is a LEP. Clearly, it would be super if the councils themselves could agree to work together on tourism. Any ideas who we should focus on? So I guess both of you, in the work that you've done, your heritage work intersects with tourism. Is there any ideas or examples that you guys have on how to connect more into the tourist sector?
Shall I go on that? I'm conscious of time, so try and be quick.
We've got a couple of minutes, but absolutely. Please tackle what you can.
I guess I'm coming at this again using Beamish as the example from a particular point of view, where it's sort of the leading tourist attraction in the northeast, so it gets a bit easier for the museum. About 50% of that visitor numbers of 800k were tourists. So what we were looking at was Visit County Durham's great. There's a strong destination management infrastructure in the northeast, again easier for us, but you can't always rely on the public sector to come in. It's looking at what you can do yourselves in partnership. So that was the thinking behind the Durham Culture Partnership. But also within that, we were sort of talking to Alnwick Castle and Gardens and talking to Glasshouse, which formerly Sage Gateshead, looking at what was possible, kind of, but driven by the sector. So it's being prepared to kind of to not have that kind of public sector support there. What can you make happen anyway? What's your case for support? What's distinct about your place? And where's heritage in that? I'll stop there. That's
a great succinct answer, thank you. Well, I think we're right up against it in terms of time. I'm sure there's loads more we could cover, but I'd like to thank our panelists today. Thank you to Mandy and Hannah and Sally. That was really, really interesting hearing your takes from your particular organisations. So just before we wrap up, I just want to let everyone know that there's going to be a lunch break now between 12 and 1. So there's no sessions for an hour. So at 1 o'clock, please come back to the main Zoom page where you'll be able to join the next session, which is Envisioning the Future of Heritage at 1 o'clock. So everyone enjoy your lunch and thank you for joining us today. Goodbye.